Hola, 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 and welcome to another episode of my podcast. To some of you that might be coming here for the first time and Spanish is not your first language, the name of this podcast might be hard to pronounce and understand, actually. Well, welcome to Nos Ponemos las Pilas. Yes, that's what it is. That's what's called. And it's a call to action, I guess, an attitude towards every day. Let's go on about our life with all our best energy. I guess that's what it entails in a nutshell. Let's put our batteries on. That's the closest to its direct translation from Spanish to English. Well, nos ponemos las pilas then. Let's put our batteries on. To those that are usually here for every episode, we switch more than languages today. We switch gears as well. Today, the best pole vaulter in history joins the show. A 22, soon-to-be 23-year-old Swedish athlete born in Lafayette, Louisiana. The European, world, and Olympic champion and owner of the indoor and outdoor world records in his event after a fantastic 2022 season that saw him break the world record at the World Championships in Eugene. Armand Duplantis talks about his off-season, how to distance himself from something he calls an addiction, well, by picking up on another addiction, how his golf game is doing. We'll talk about that with Mondo. The competitive atmosphere in a household full of athletes. Talking about competition, he would not mind taking on the fastest woman in the world if Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce wants to have that competition. Armand Duplantis has gone 54 times over what still is seen in his sport as the Everest of his event, the 6-meter barrier. He has jumped 7 centimeters higher than anyone in history. And still, at 22, he thinks he can go and will go even higher than the 621 he jumped in Eugene. Armand Duplantis, the Louisiana Swede that was born to fly. Oh, and by the way, he also talks about that documentary that was just released in Europe. Here he is, in Nos Ponemos las Pilas, the best pole vaulter in history. Well, Armand Duplantis, thanks for joining. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm chilling. I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain, honestly.
Time off right now, or is it beginning of the preseason? What are you doing?
This is my last week of relaxing, you could say. And then next week I'm gonna start back up with some fall training going into next season.
How do you get back? How do you relax, by the way, after such a season? 22 meets and all in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna just chill, like I feel like somebody normal person would do. I play as much golf as I can. I'm trying to play some golf the past month. Just hang out with my buddies, stay up a little later than I can, in the season. And just try to take it easy and just, do whatever, really.
How's your golf game going?
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, it depends, like up and down. I mean, it depends on the day. I've only played for two years, I guess, about now, since like the start of COVID. And so,
So you didn't play beforehand?
No, I never played beforehand. Mm-mm.
So you're hitting the ball one time in that blog that you used to do. Pretty good swing. I mean, it shows you're an athlete, of course.
Yeah. I mean, the swing's okay. I feel like it's not like, doesn't feel totally unnatural to me. I mean, some things about golf feel a little bit unnatural, I guess, to everybody. But I mean, like the swing feels like okay. I feel like I can like use my body and everything. Like.
So what's the handicap?
It's 10 but I don't know if that's the same. I don't know if they use the same system in Sweden and Europe as they do in the United States, but it's 10, at least in Sweden. Yeah.
If it's a universal thing, 10 is pretty good.
Yeah.
I would stay. I mean,
a
scratch golfer would have a good time with you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, I mean, now, like, it would have to be like a really, really bad day for me not to break 90. So I'm good enough to where I can at least like enjoy it, but bad enough to where I can sometimes be really shitty.
It's sort of like an addiction, right? If you pick it up too much.
It is. No, it is. And, I especially like from what I do, because like I can be really busy at times, but then whenever I have time, I have a lot of time, and golf is kind of like a perfect thing if you have time, because it takes up every bit of time you may possibly have, because that's just kind of how golf is. But yeah, it's a very addictive sport. I hadn't been addicted to something like that since pole vaulting, honestly.
Did you do you walk or cart?
It depends. In Sweden, the culture is walking, actually. And in the United States, like whenever I'm in Louisiana, the culture is definitely not walking. Everybody's riding a cart in Louisiana. But you know, I get it. It's hot, so I kind of get it. But yeah, it depends on where I am. And unless I have like, if I have a meet in like a week or so, or if it's like coming up kind of soon, I want to play around, then I'll probably get a cart.
So what else goes on in your time off? How do you break from the I guess burnout you can get at the end of the season? Do you feel that? I guess it's a twofold question, right? Do you feel burned towards the end of the season that you need to have this time off?
Yeah, kind of yes and no. I think physically it's very nice. It feels, I think it feels very nice to like just rest my body. And, you know, towards the end of the year when you've been competing a lot, traveling a lot, I feel like it's nice to just kind of rest the body a little bit, stay in one place. And yeah, just, you know, not move around, or I mean, move around, but not, you know, not in the same very like taxing on your body way that I do when I'm pole vaulting and training. So physically, I think it's very much needed. Mentally, I think it's nice too. I think it's nice. Like, I mean, I love competing, and I feel like I'm always hungry to compete, but I think it's nice to kind of be in the mentality of like, whenever you wake up, there's no stress to whatever you're going to do. You can do whatever you want. I can eat whatever I want in the morning for these, you know, like, you know, it's a short little like 3 weeks or so, but you know, in the morning I could eat whatever I want. For lunch, I could eat whatever I want. And just kind of like the no stress of like really being able to like let everything go and just do, you know, do whatever.
So I was reading up on past world championships in Eugene, right? And I'd run into the Alison Felix comeback to Eugene experience. She was about to cheat for the first time, like after having been through her competition. She didn't know she was going to compete anymore. And she said she had a chicken wing in her hand when she got the phone call to come back to Eugene because she was running on the 4x4. So I figured, okay, Alison Felix cheats with chicken wings.
Yeah.
What's that thing that you're during the season, you're like, oh no, shoot, I wish I could have this right now, but I'm going to wait until the off season to have it?
For me, it's, and honestly, like sometimes even if it's in season, depends on when it is, but every time, whenever I get back to United States, to Louisiana from Europe, and I guess more specifically Sweden, the first meal I always have is Raising Cane's. You know, Raising Cane's, the fried chicken place. And
I can't imagine you being there though. I can't.
It's always the craving. Especially whenever I haven't been in the United States for a while.
Fried chicken.
Yep, fried chicken. Yeah, it's not. They don't really have a huge scene of fried chicken also in Sweden. I wouldn't say that's a very like. I don't know. It's just not a very popular thing. They don't really have many like good establishments, or even mini establishments that have like real fried chicken. So yeah, I would say that's like that would be the biggest cheat meal for me.
So you're about to embark into a new season, and I mentioned it was 21 meets during the year. It's actually 21 competitions, not exactly 21 different meets. It included qualifications and all that. You had a pretty down year, I would say. Only twice you didn't make it over 6 meters.
Yeah,
that's a down year. 21 meets, and twice you didn't make it over 6 meters, and the other two that you didn't make it over 6, it's because you didn't have to, because those were qualification competitions, so you were obliged to do it.
Yeah.
Gosh, Mondo, I mean, I'm here talking to you, and we met in Eugene, and I know what you are in the world of sports. You're about to be 23 years old. Do you realize what you have achieved so far?
Not really, honestly. I think it's kind of hard to, I don't know. It's hard to wrap my head around everything. I feel like, you know, I'm very grateful for the position I'm in. I'm very grateful for like the way everything's working out. And, like just, looking back on the year and like the way that it all fell into place and basically doing all the things that I wanted to do. And, I set really high goals for myself and, be able to break the world record 3 times, breaking one of the world records in Eugene at the World Championships to claim my first world outdoor title. It's like things that I've really dreamed of. And then, once they happen, it's like, it's special, and it's really special for a moment. And then it just feels like, I don't know, you kind of come down to earth a little bit, and then you just feel like you just want more, honestly. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's like same old.
There's a saying that Jim McKay used to say it, an old broadcaster. He said it in a different context, but this phrase that his dad used to say, that his biggest dreams or your biggest dreams are seldom realized, right? Your childhood dreams are seldom realized. And I could remember playing soccer at a young age, and thinking, oh my gosh, free kick to win the World Cup, or playing baseball, to count bottom of the 9th bases loaded to win the World Series. You had that. Did you ever dream in your backyard saying, okay, this is Mondo going for a world record to win the World Championship? You did that.
All the time. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really special thing, especially since like, for me, like growing up as a pole vaulter, and I was really just obsessed with the sport, obsessed with everything about it. I used to love watching videos of pole vaulting and, the championship meets, and just dreaming about one day being in that situation, being on the runway where the gold medal height is there, world record height's there. And it's, you
thought about it. You started bending a pole at 7 years old. So
yeah,
there were times where you stood in the back of that runway in your backyard, jumping into what was it? It was made for you, like a UCS Spirit pole vault made it especially for you. You still jumping in those poles to this day?
Me? No, I don't jump on the same poles.
No, not on that same pole, but on the same, on the brand.
They're there. Yeah. They're still my parents' backyard. For anybody that doesn't know, if you're listening, I started jumping in my parents' backyard. My father built an entire pole vault setup, and he was a professional pole vaulter also. And so he built the setup, and then I started basically as soon as any kid could start pole vaulting, I guess, like 3 years old or so.
That's not when any kids start. They barely start riding a bike at 3 years old.
Yeah.
Grab a pole vault at 3.
Yeah, no, true. No, it's true. So yeah, it was a little bit of a unique childhood, but for me, it was just like the normal thing. It was like if somebody had like a football net or
I guess that's what you do, right? When you grow up in a house with your dad is an Olympic pole vaulter.
Yeah, exactly. You just like pole vaulting for me was just like, of course it's a very niche event, and that's what it is. But for me, it was just like felt very mainstream and felt like just like the normal thing to be doing.
So you literally went back from school and as kids, maybe grab a basketball and shoot around in a basketball hoop, you would grab a pole vault.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. I mean, before school, after school, late at night. I mean, whenever really. I mean, I had like the setup was to my disposal because, it was literally in my backyard. So, we have tons of backyard, home footage of me. I'm just like jumping even in my underwear. And I'm jumping well too. And I was like looking at like old videos of me when I was like 9 years old, jumping in my underwear and stuff like that, barefoot, always barefoot too. And it was like, that it just shows like, that's just how common of a thing it was for me to just be out there jumping.
Did they have to call you in for dinner?
Yeah, my mom would have to call me and my dad in for dinner. Cause I think there was a lot of times where we would get really caught up in the jumping, and we'd lose track of the time. Yeah, that happened quite a bit.
So, there's barriers in athletics in every event, right? So, at your age, you said the 4 meter barrier, the 5 meter barrier. Mm-hmm. 5 meter barrier is one that can, you can really compete worldwide with that. How old were you when you first went over that? Not in a competition, but at home.
Yeah, no, I jumped 5 meters, I think, right when I was turning 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right when I turned 15, and then that's later that summer I was able to jump 5:30 also when I was 15. So I was, I think during those years, like 15 to 18 years old when I was in high school in Louisiana, I had quite a big jump in like, really starting to figure out my technique and just my jump in general.
Before we go into the technique portion of it all, so I really want to know whether you can find something that can be improved in that. But I still want to stick around with your childhood, I guess, and growing up in your family. Most people might not know this, those that are listening to this. But your dad, a pole vaulter, your mom is from Sweden. She was a heptathlete and a volleyball player at Louisiana State.
Mm-hmm.
But then from that marriage, your brother was also a pole vaulter at LSU. Your sister's a freshman pole vaulter in the LSU track team right now. Your brother plays baseball in the minors for the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys were competing for everything, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
How bad did it get? I mean, how bad in a good way, right?
Yeah, I would say like bad in a good way for sure. I mean, like we were a very sporty family, very sporty, and
a competition for everything. Race you up the stairs if you had a second floor, right?
Yeah, like kind of. I would say yes and no. I don't really like. I don't know. I don't really remember as far as like the little tiny things when it got like the over competitiveness, but I know that like when it came to like whenever we got home from school every day and we were all like gathered together, all the siblings, we were going to figure out a way to be playing some type of sport against each other, whether that was wiffle ball, whether we were playing soccer, or for most days it would be pole vaulting. So no, we were always like very sporty, and we really did love to compete. And so like, every day we'd end up figuring out something to do.
It's mind blowing how just the fact that a family can produce so many athletes of good level. I mean, of course,
good genetics.
It is, but you can have genetics as well, but it's also the culture around it.
It's a cultural thing. Yeah, definitely.
Right. It's what your parents have provided you with, not only the genes to do it, but they could have had, 15 couches at home and then sit around and do nothing with those genes.
No, for sure. And I mean, you look at I think you look at our whole neighborhood too. And, a lot of, I mean, almost everybody went on to, they played some type of sport. I had, two of my best friends, Nate and Grant Cox. One's playing D1 football, quarterback. Other one played D1 baseball. We got another guy who was going to play D1 baseball. I mean, like the whole neighborhood went on to, be very successful.
That's not genes. I mean, that's the culture around the block.
Exactly. And I think that was just kind of like, since, the block that we had, I think it was so extremely competitive that, the only way to survive was, you had to raise your game up. And I think that like, that saying iron sharpens iron. I think that like it really applied to, the neighborhood that we had, because like if you wanted to be anything, where we grew up, you really had to, take your game to another level.
So you have in the pole vault, and I'm jumping to another subject before we go back to the family part.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a whole different neighborhood. I mean, this year you won 621. Chris Nielsen is number 2 in the world, and he's at 6 meters. So that means 21 centimeters over that. That's a whole different neighborhood, and there's nobody that's around there except for you. How do you compete against yourself? That's the biggest. I guess that's one of the questions that I really wanted to ask. How do you go about competing against you?
I mean, I think that for me, that's kind of always how it's been. And when I grew up and I started out in pole vaulting, I was just a young little kid. I was 7 years old when I really started getting really competitive about it. And in the area, there was no other pole vaulters against me, and there was really no competition in the country or even the world at that time for 7-year-old jumpers, not only because there wasn't that many jumpers at that age, but even if there was any kid that you can find that started out pole vaulting, they weren't as good as I was at the time, because I picked up on the event so quickly. And so for me, I got introduced into the sport. It was as a very individual, you had to have a lot of motivation, and you had to, for me, it was always a me against me game, and me against that bar. And so for me, being in the situation where I am now, to where I know that if I jump well and I do good at any given competition, then I really should, be on the top. And so for me, that just, I don't know, it feels like something that it wasn't that hard to get used to, because that's kind of the way I was introduced into this event.
So, and now go back to the technique portion of it all. Since you started jumping at a very young age, technically there's so much improvement you can have. Can you improve technically? This is a scary question for anybody that's pole vaulting and that's listening to you as well, too.
Yeah. I think there's always little things that you can be doing. Definitely. I think that over the past 2 years, I haven't, my technique is getting better. I think just naturally, with more repetitions and more, and a better feeling with the pole, and, just getting the timing always better. It's always really important. So, critical. It just comes out in these little fractions of a second of timing. But for me, I think that the main focus right now on my jump is the physical portion of pole vaulting, where I'm just trying to get a lot faster, stronger, more explosive, to where I want to be able to grip higher. I think that there's more to be doing as far as pushing my grip up a little higher. That should, for the most part, if you can use it right, that should equate to some higher ballers, and try to use try to keep using stiffer and stiffer poles, because, yeah.
When you go into the specific case, I guess specs, we'll call them like that.
Yes,
I'm not going to get into
specification. I don't know. Shit.
a hard English word that I'm not qualified to pronounce even. When you go into the specs of the pole vault in equipment itself, right? You go into your manufacturer, UCS Spirit, right? You go to them and you tell them how can they improve what they make, so you can go higher on any given day. Can they do that? Is the technology out there for them to improve on that equipment, so that you, granted, improving technically and your strength to be able to hold on to the stiffness of that pole, can go higher as well?
Yeah, I think that you would imagine that the technology is out there. You just look at something like golf shafts and how much, that has changed over the past years. And, the pole vaulting pole technology, it really hasn't changed much over the past 25 years or so. It's pretty much the same as it was since then, since the early 90s, especially. And, I think that's kind of one of these issues where, you need money to do the proper research, and to have the proper trials to be able to push and advance the technology of the poles further. And which I would imagine that, pole vaulting and the pole vaulting pole companies don't really have it at the moment. But no, you see companies trying to get into fiberglass poles. Not fiberglass, carbon fiber poles. I don't use a carbon fiber pole. I use a fiberglass pole. And maybe that could be the future, if they can make carbon fiber, which is could possibly be a lighter pole and whatnot. But for me, I still use fiberglass poles. And
how many pole vaulters in the world are jumping on a pole with the specs of your pole? Same stiffness, length?
I don't know. We really don't usually compare them like that, because they're very individual, the poles. But there's guys like Chris Nielsen that's using something pretty similar to me as far as the length and the stiffness. But I guess one of the reasons why I'm able to get more out of it is because I'm just lighter, and he's a lot bigger guy than me. So for him to be able to get more out of a pole and to be able to get more recoil on the top end, he would the goal is to be using as stiff and long as a pole as you possibly can, or using as stiff a pole as you possibly can over your weight. Or you want the stiffness to be able to, it's got to be something that can fling you up there. It can't just be a wet little pool noodle and expect you to get something out of the top just by technique. You really need to be putting in a lot of speed, energy, and strength into a stiff pole to be able to get something out of it.
What gets you out there, though? Because back, when pole vaults started, I guess pole vaults, fiberglass pole vaults came about, and when technology advanced in the 80s and 90s, it seemed as if the best pole vaulters came from more of a mixture of strength than speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, with Renault Lavillenie and you in particular, you don't have to have that strength. It's more of the speed to get you up there. What do you
Yeah.
think gets you up there?
Well, it's speed for sure. I mean, there's a direct correlation to who's getting first place in a competition to, you know, the bottom place guy on just based on their speed on the runway. And it's almost for the most part, it seems like for the, you know, most of the time, the fastest guy on the runway is going to win, and whoever can create the most speed, because, you know, he's able to use a stiffer and longer pole. So, yes, speed is the main thing. And, you know, not necessarily that, you know, me and Renault would be weak. We're just more, you know, you need to be strong for your body weight, but it's, you know, having a bunch of excess weight it doesn't really do you any good, because, you know, you still need to fly through the air. So being light is also a nice advantage.
So with the speed part of it, wasn't there a question over whether you could beat Shalian in the 100?
Yeah.
Is that a made-for-TV event in the works?
Maybe. Well, I know that Shelly Ann is seems to be keen on it, because she genuinely thinks that she would beat me. You know,
But you guys are Puma, so it could work.
yeah, maybe we can maybe figure something out. No, but I mean, besides the press conference that we did, we've had this conversation, you know, multiple times, and you know, she really thinks that she can beat me, and I really think that I could beat her. So it is
Beating her requires a 10:59.
yeah.
I mean, if she's at the top of her game. Can you do that?
Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem at all, honestly.
There you go. Take that, Shillian Fraser Price. That's a challenge.
No, but yeah, I really don't think that would be a problem.
So going back to Eugene and the World Championships, you have the whole stage for yourself. The whole world is watching you. The world athletic world is watching you. We're not going to pretend that the whole world watches athletics nowadays, but you bring attention to the sport so much so that we can have the whole world watching. If that means you're jumping for a world record.
Wow.
How did it work in timing wise? Because the last track event ends while you still have 2 jumps to go in at a world record height. Mm-hmm. Was it pure coincidence? Did you guys work it out? How did you manage time in that sense?
I think that, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that maybe they set it up like that a little bit on purpose. They wanted me to maybe, like, you know, but by the chance that I could be jumping really well and that I could be going for a world record, it would be a nice way to end the competition. And it was a little bit of like a kind of a deja vu feeling, because we had the World Indoor Championships earlier this year in Belgrade. Mm-hmm. And pole vaulting was one of the last events, and the timing worked out to where I was the last person on the track. It was World Indoor Championships, and I was attempting 620 world record, and it was my it was my last attempt, and I ended up making it. And it was, you know, the whole crowd is only fixated on me because I'm the only person, you know, that's doing anything. And then, you know, fast forward to, you know, this summer, and you know, it's the exact same situation. Only me. I'm the only one competing, and, you know, 621 would be another new world record in the World Championships, and it's just me, and all the eyes and focus on me. And it's you know, it's a cool feeling. It really is. It's a really cool feeling. You know, you don't want to mess that up, because you don't always get those kind of situations where it's only you on the track, and that's the only thing that everybody has to focus on, and especially when it's a world record, they probably want to anyway. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Take us through what your thought process is. Like, what exactly does Armand Duplantis think when he's about to attempt for a world record with the whole world watching, and the last event of a world championships? When you grab the pole, what do you recall went through your mind?
I feel like when it comes to a world record, especially like in the way it happened in Eugene, I feel like that was probably the most relaxed I was out of the whole day before a jump, because I feel like, you know, I had already won. I broke a championship record. It was my first world outdoor title, and you know, all the real pressure jumps, you could say, I already got them out the way. You know, I already won, and I knew that all the jumps leading up to the win, those are the real pressure jumps, because, you know, I really wanted to win very badly, and then everything after that is just kind of like a cherry on top. And you know, I knew like that I had a good shot at making it. And I was on the stiffest pole that I have. It was the stiffest pole I was gripping as high as I've ever gripped. And so, just right there for me, I was really just trying to focus on finding a good rhythm on my run. And I was running really well that day already. So I knew that speed wasn't really a problem. I just had to find the right rhythm at the end of the run to where, if I hit the right spot at takeoff, then it should be fine. And so honestly, I don't know. I think your mind just kind of goes blank and kind of had this like nice feeling of relaxed confidence. And then I just kind of go.
So athletes in when they describe the zone, they I don't know. I sense that I can make a common denominator is that it's like air is sucked out and all the noise is silenced. Did it happen to you?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and it's like it's not really that the noise is silenced. It's just like blurred.
It's a buzz.
Yeah, it's just like a buzz. You don't really you can't like make out anything. And it's just kind of like it's happening, but you don't really like, and it's there, but it's not really like anything that's, anything that like really gets through to you, if that makes sense. It's just like on the outside. That's more of the tunnel because you still hear the noise. It's not like everything goes dead silent. You still hear it, but it's almost like you have this kind of like barrier around your head to where like you can't actually make out anything because you're so focused on what you're like trying to do.
So 621, your hips went over 624, 625 by measurement of the system they had for the broadcast. How high can you go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that I can go higher. I know that I can go higher. That's for sure.
Do you attempt world records at practice?
No, not even close, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually practice from my full approach from 20 steps. I usually do like a shorter approach on smaller poles, a little bit shorter poles and less, softer poles. Because I just can't generate the same amount of speed and the same like angle and power through the takeoff that I do in competitions. I need the adrenaline and everything to be able to do it. So no, I whenever I'm jumping world record, I mean, that's the first time I looked at these heights.
You guys are going to have every athlete in the world, but you guys are going to have a cramped couple of years coming up. I mean, you got another World Championships in Budapest next year, and the Olympics coming in Paris with another World Championships after that, and coming off a forced off season basically when it came to the pandemic year.
Yeah.
Your body now needed this break, I would assume, more than anything.
Yeah, no, I mean it's nice. I mean, I love the schedule that we have. I love how every year, basically, the past 2 years or so. And the next 3 is all going to be really jam-packed as far as, have a really important meet to end the year as far as the championship with the Olympics and the World Championship. So, I really like it because I feel like, I have a good thing going right now. And, while I'm jumping, I want all the championship meets to happen then. So, no, that's really good. And I don't know. I feel good. I feel like now, since I'm about to start training this upcoming week, I feel like now I'm starting to get a little bit into the groove. But I had some really nice weeks, spending here in Louisiana and in Sweden, and just really relaxing, just absolutely getting away from pole vaulting and just focusing on my friends, family, girlfriend, and it was nice. It was nice, and now I feel like refreshed and ready to get back to it.
How does a dad coach relationship work?
Yeah, it depends on what it is. I know that there's maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this. There's a documentary on me that's called Born to Fly that was just released in Sweden, and it's released internationally in the beginning of next year, 2023. And it is pretty heavily focused on me and my father's relationship, especially like in the teenage years, which I guess is not really the same as it is now because I'm not the same person as I was when I was a teenager. I was probably a little more of a hothead, but I mean, we have a fantastic relationship. It's we both love being around each other, not only as coach and athlete, but father and son. He's my Yeah, I mean, I don't talk to anybody other than probably my girlfriend more than I talk to my father.
That's great.
And so, we're best friends in that sense. And we both love pole vaulting. We both love discussing, pole vault, not only me pole vaulting and technical pole vaulting, but just the pole vault world.
If you had a fantasy team of pole vaulting, who would you pick? You have three choices.
Three choices. I mean,
historical. They could all be historical.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would probably pick, I'd pick, it would be Bubka Renault for sure for the two. And probably for the third, I would pick, since I don't really feel like picking myself in this situation, I'll probably pick Sam Kendricks because, whenever we were going at it and whenever he was really jumping his best, I haven't really seen somebody that was as consistent as he was.
And when it comes to your last days of off season, what are you really going to do? What are you going to do to say, okay, this is it. I'm finishing it off. I'm not going to see you guys until 10 months from now.
Well, I have the perfect way, actually. My brother is getting married beginning of next year, and we have his bachelor party this weekend. So I think that'll probably be a good way to get everything out of my system. And whenever I get back home, then it's really time to, okay, now we buckle up, we strap it, and we get back to work.
Any location that can be disclosed?
We're gonna be like Florida area. We're gonna be on the beach.
That's good. Well, enjoy the beach and your last couple of days in the off season. Looking forward to your 2023 year, knowing it's going to be another exciting year for the world of athletics to see you out there jumping.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Wando, thanks so much. Thanks for making it this far. Thanks for listening to my podcast. Remember to subscribe and comment as well. Cheers to you, in hopes that we have more of these types of shows in the future. Really enjoy chatting to the best pole vaulter in history and looking forward to having more of the best athletes in the world on this show. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, nos ponemos las pilas.